Hello everyone, welcome to another video called Variable Manipulation for Lesson 3 Python Basics. Starting off, we're going to be talking about some useful functions we may use in Python programs. Let's start with max and min. We use these functions to either find the greatest value or the smallest value given. So there are multiple types of parameters we can get, where if we get single parameters for both min and max function, the functions are going to consider that parameter or the argument as a sequence. So it's going to go through each items in that sequence and either find the biggest value for max, smallest value for min. So in this example here, I have the max function running A, B, C, D, E, F, G, which is a string, and it'll output G, because G is the largest value of the string. Now, in terms of Python programming, when we compare different alphabetic values in Python, it's going to follow the alphabetical order. So starting at lowercase a, that's the smallest value, and lowercase z, the higher value. Funnily enough, in Python, the uppercase letters are considered smaller than lowercase. Therefore, a uppercase z would be smaller than lowercase a. So please watch out. Next, if I were to run the min function on a list of integers of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it will return 1 because out of all those integer items in that list, 1 will be the smallest value. So we can use max and min with a single parameter to determine the largest, smallest value in a sequence. Now, let's say you had multiple parameters. You had multiple items that you want to compare and either find the biggest or smallest value. So we can use max and min with multiple arguments or multiple parameters. So if I have max comparing the string of A and string of B, it'll return B because A. In terms of min of 12, 42, 13, and 100, it will return 12 because 12 is the smallest value out of all the argument parameters that we've given that. Another interesting function that we can look at is the length function. The length function is used to find a length of a collection. Length of it. How many items does that sequence have in total? So if I look at the string of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, it returns 7 because there are 7 items in that string, 7 characters in that string. If I look at the length of a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it returns 6 because there are 6 items in that. Just to note, we can't use the length function on a non-collection database data type, such as we can't say length of integer to determine how many. Doesn't work that way. Next, if you want to convert the data type of your current value, we can use our type. So if I want to convert something to a string, I would use our function. So example here, I have 123 as an integer. If I convert that to a string, it would give me 1, 2, 3 as my single individual characters in that string. If I were to use a string function on a list, it would convert it like that. Be careful, it will also grab square brackets inside the list, so it will change up how. We can use the integer function to convert non-integer values to integers. So if I have a string of 1, 2, 3, we'll convert it to an integer of 123. If I ran the integer function 3.6, it will round down, always rounds down for integer to the nearest one, and it will convert. Next, if I were to try to use the integer function on the string hello, you'll get an error because hello has no numerical value, so error. Lastly, but not least, we have this function that we're not going to use for a while, but it's still cool to learn. It's the list function. Convert a parameter into a list if possible. So if I take a list function with the parameter ABC as a string, I will get the individual strings separated in a list with them. Now, if I were to try to do a list onto an integer, not a collection, it will give me an error because I can't convert 40. So moving on, we're going to be talking about step-by-step instruction, linear instruction set, and talking about how this program on the left will give me these kind of. Right? So starting off with, I have variables A, B, and C, respectively set to 12, 13, 14. So in question 1, it says, if I were to print a plus b plus c at right here in this code, what would the output be? We get 39, because if I were to add up these values, I get 39. In question 2, is after I ran these 3 codes, it asks which variable now contains the greatest value and why. Variable c contains the greatest value because c is a result of a and b, and whatever a and b updates to, c will be the sum of that. C has to be the greatest value. For question 3, it's asked which variable now contains the smallest value and why. It would be a. A is the sum of b and plus c before b and c got manipulated. Let's talk about that. I just said a becomes smallest value because it added the b and c before it got manipulated. So after these 4 lines of code here, we update the variables a, c. In a mathematical world, most people would just put 13 and 14 here, 12 and 14 here, and 12 and 13 here. Now, mathematically, that would kind of make sense, but in programming, it doesn't make sense because we follow linear instruction set. So, variables a, b, and c have been set so far 4 lines of code. Now, we hit a new line of code that says a is being updated to the result of b plus c. So at this point, I substitute 13 for b, 14 for c, a becomes 7. Next, b, we're going to say b is updated to the addition of variable a and variable c. So variable a is not 12 anymore, but rather in this line above, it got updated to 27. So if I add 7, 14, we get 41. So now I have a is 27, b is 40. Add those two together, c becomes 68. Therefore, question 4a, what is the output at this section here, the maximum a, b, and c? We get a value of 8. For the minimum value, question 4b, we get 7. So in computer programming, especially so far, we're doing something called a top-down instruction set or a linear instruction set, where we start from line 1 and we execute each line of code one by one in order they were written. And every time we use a variable again, we can call it if we haven't done anything to it or we declared it before. And we can also update it with newer value, and it will be maintaining that new value rather than holding on to the value. So that is a key understanding that I want you to have forward when we work with variables, especially with linear instruction programming. In this worksheet, there are other programming questions and there are other exercises for us to do. Each of those exercises will have their own videos so that I can get deeper details. Thank you for watching.